Hey everyone, Corey Milhouse here from BetweenTheLanes.net, and we're going to be talking about this scout deck that I'm just calling the Rock. Those of you familiar with this terminology from other card games, this is just a mid-range deck in agility and endurance. Actually, not really a ramp deck, but more of actually, like I said, sort of a mid-range curve-out deck that I've been playing recently on the top end of the Legend ladder. Actually, recently I went through and just played 10 games yesterday and actually went 10-0 with the deck and got back up into the top 10. So wanted to do a deck tech, talk about some of the card choices, talk about the deck overall, and sort of what it is that you're trying to achieve and what it is that some of these different card choices are. And some of them might look a little bit weird. There might be some cards that you would think would be in this deck that you're noticing aren't in them, and I'll try to explain sort of why it is that I'm playing some of these cards and not playing some others. So I'm just gonna go by each of the Magicka costs. The only one drop that's in the deck is Ungolem. Um, this card's pretty self-explanatory. It's one of the best couple of unique legendaries in the game. It's in pretty much every single agility deck, so this deck definitely loves to see on Golem on turn 1. The Assassins are great too, since there really isn't a ton of card draw cycling in the deck, so just excellent 1-drop. Your 2-drops are kind of rounded out with what I believe are some of the best 2-drops in the entire game. You have Daring Cut Purse, um, excellent 2-drop. Fighters Guild Recruit, once again a staple. Mournhold Trader, which is a card that people are playing more and more. I've been a huge advocate of this card for the last week and a half or so. 4/4 on turn 2 is just absolutely insane and really difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. Popping out the 2/1 with guard, theoretically you could, silence your own guy to have them not get the 2/1, but for the most part, cards like Windkeep, Spell Sword, and other things are able to kind of trade with the 2/1 pretty favorably, so you just sort of play yourself into situations where the 2/1 isn't always relevant. And like I said, Windkeep Spell Sword, one of the other best 2-drops I would say in the game just because of its resiliency. The war on here is really good. Kind of combos pretty well with Lucian, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a second. 3 Crushing Blows are actually the only spells in the entire deck. Gives the deck a little bit of reach. I guess Midnight Sweep is technically a spell, but it puts creatures into play. But really, the spells that are available in these colors aren't great. Crushing Blow does exactly what we need it to do. Sometimes you need 3 damage to the face. Sometimes you need 3 damage to get through something like a Hive Defender, or be able to kill, you know, a Fighter's Guild Recruit or something else that's kind of giving you a hard time. The 3-drop creatures, also some of the best 3-drops right now in the entire game. Haunting Spirit is great. Number of awesome plays that you can make with this to be able to get the last gasp trigger, be able to trade with a few things, and have your guy starting to get buffed up pretty well. Kisman, one of the best creatures just in the entire game right now. Being able to keep your life total up while also being a 3/3 for 3 is just pretty awesome. Gives the deck a little bit more reach. And Young Mammoth, a 4/4 for 3 is super above the curve. Lightning Bolt's a great way to deal with this, but you usually at least get 4 damage through, and then they're spending 4 Magicka to deal with your 3-drops. So your 3-drops are super strong. Same thing with the 4-drops. Deshaun Avenger, just super resilient, sticky card, hard for decks to deal with in a 1-for-1 fashion. Lucian, with a couple of cards like Young Mammoth, which are going to be able to kind of go over the top of a number of the 3-drops that are in the format. You should be able to get a pretty big buff out of it. Same thing with Spell Sword and Trader. Just Lucian has been pretty excellent this deck. The 5 toughness is also really difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. Ice Storm can't get through this, and people usually need a couple of cards to be able to deal with this, and the lethal is also great to be able to put it in a lane where you might want to just lethal through something at the start of your next turn to be able to let some of your bigger guys get through for damage to the face. Midnight Sweep is something that I'm trying out currently. This is kind of, I would say, the flex spot of the deck. There's a few different cards that you could be playing here. I wouldn't recommend really putting anything above 4 in the deck if you do make this switch for anything else. I would try to play maybe a 2 or a 3-drop over it if you do decide to cut this, but I did want to get a couple more prophecies in the deck, since the only other really defensive prophecy in the entire deck is Fighter's Guild Recruit. Daring Cut Purse, not really great defensively. Moonlight Werebat is obviously insane. It's the best prophecy creature in the entire game. It's not even remotely close. If you hit this off your first rune of the game, it's mostly just game over for a lot of decks. And then there's 2 Preserver of the Roots. 2 is the number that I decided to go with, just because I'm also only playing 2 Hiss Mages and just trying to make some room in the deck. You can get pretty clogged on your 4s. You'll notice that there's actually quite a few of them. So currently 2 Preserver of the Root. Wouldn't fault people for wanting to play more or changing up some of these numbers, but currently the list has 2. The 5 drops, you'll notice that there are no Soul Rest Marshals, there are no Leaf Lurkers. There really isn't anything in the deck that combos super well with Leaf Lurker. Like, you don't have Rapid Shots or anything like that to be able to kind of deal a little bit of damage to something to be able to kill it. Shadowfen Priest, for the most part, you usually just want to silence something as opposed to Leaf Lurkering it. Just usually ends up being significantly better. This is sort of a same sort of idea where you don't want to play too many 5 drops, and I just think that Leaf Lurker is not particularly strong in this deck. It dies to Ice Storm, a bunch of other things. Shadowfen Priest is just significantly stronger, I believe, in this deck because of the silence and also the ability to take out supports like Divine Fervor and other supports that people are playing currently, and silence is just super strong. No Soul Rest Marshal, just because you're more about kind of curving out with this deck, and Soul Rest Marshal is better in the decks that I believe that you need a little bit more help in sort of dumping out your hand, which this deck, since you're kind of curving out 2, 3, 4 into a 5, pretty much most of the time, if you Soul Rest Marshal, just because of how the curve is, you'd end up only putting out like a 3 or a 4. 4 drop is kind of fine, but if you end up putting a 2 or a 3 drop in it, I just didn't particularly like it in the deck. I just think that Cliff Racer, Shadowfen Priest, and then also the other card that I've been playing recently is Thorn Hiss Mage. They're just significantly more resilient, do much better on their own. They don't need the help of either having more health or having something in your hand to be able to play to have it be more impactful. So these are currently the suite of 5 drops that I'm playing. I think that this is probably correct. Maybe a Thorn Hiss Mage count up to 3 might be correct, but this is what I've been playing. Haven't missed Leaf Lurker, haven't missed Soul Rest Marshal at all. So the combo is kind of try to get to turn 5, play Thorn Hiss Mage, and then that just the following turn gets you straight into Bone Colossus. This card just closes out games, and if you ever get to play 2 of them and your opponent doesn't answer the first one, it's just so much damage. So there's a lot of times that you're just playing into situations where you're loading up one lane to be able to dump a Bone Colossus in the opposite lane the following turn, and the bridge from Thorn Hiss Mage to Bone Colossus is just absolutely crazy. There's one Night Shadow currently. I just wanted access to one more card that could give me a little bit more health for the aggressive matchups. I feel like one Night Shadow was a great complement to the Werebat and House Kinsman combo that you'll see in a lot of agility decks. Just gaining that health to be able to stay ahead and being able to win some races is extremely strong. So decided to go with one Night Shadow. And then right at the top of the curve is Tazcad Packmaster. Probably one of the best cards in the entire game. Helps you close out a lot of games and is just pretty much these Bone Colossus and Tazcad are pretty much just insane top decks late game. There really isn't a ton of card draw in the deck, so you are kind of a little bit at the mercy of the top of your deck for most games. So these are just great cards to be able to rip off the top. This deck has an amazing matchup against Control Mage just because there's so many threats that are extremely difficult for them to Ice Storm away, like Young Mammoth, Deshaun Avenger, you can't get away by itself, Preserve of the Root. I mean, pretty much everything from your Preserver and the Root down just doesn't die to Ice Storm or Crushing Blows. They need more of the premium removal spells like Piercing Javelin and the like to be able to kind of clear them out completely. So 12 Prophecies in the deck, so your aggro matchup isn't great, which is why I was trying to get a couple more of these Drain cards and cards like Midnight Sweep in there so that your Prophecies are a little bit better on rune breaks, and you have the ability to kind of gum up the board and be able to make some favorable trades for you against the aggressive decks, and then try to drop like a Night Shadow or Bone Colossus or something like that to be able to close out the game. So other considerations for this deck, I was playing Feasting Vulture for a little while too. This card has been in and out of this iteration of the deck a couple of times. Black Sap Protector if you wanted some more prophecies. Dune Smuggler I also really couldn't fault people from playing. Yeah, a couple of times I've wanted to cut Midnight Sweep for either Black Sap or Dune Smuggler or something like that. Sort of just depends on what the metagame is or what it is that I'm trying to be a little stronger against. But I definitely recommend this deck for the ladder for sure. There's kind of a few legendaries, but a lot I think that people may have from other decks like Ungolem and Tazcat and the like. Definitely try it out. Highly recommend it. Like I said, once again, it's just something that's a little bit different on the ladder than what you're used to. Sometimes people will look at Scout and they'll think you'll be a bit of a slower ramp deck, and then you curve out, like Mournhold Trader into Kinsman or Mammoth, into a Lucian or a Werebat, into a Cliff Racer or something like that, and the curve is just ridiculous in this deck. Most of the time, the creatures that you play are going to be significantly bigger, or at least relatively bigger, I should say. I don't want to go too over the top than whatever it is that's on the board during that time. And especially if you have the Elixir, Mournhold Trader on your first turn is pretty strong. It's going to end up dealing like 8 to 12 damage, which is pretty much exactly what you want this deck to do. And then you just kind of end the game with Cliff Racers and Bone Colossus and Tazcat and the like. So be sure to follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Milhouse with one L _48, so Milhouse _48. Check out CVH's stream, twitch.tv/IMCVH. He's also tried this deck out and has the stamp of approval. And stay tuned for more deck techs, and check out the streams to be able to see this deck and other ones that we've been working on. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.